There are a lot of interesting facts about Edward Snowden that you might not know. Some of them might even surprise you. Whether you're a fan of the whistleblower or not, there's no denying that the world has been changed by his actions. Let's explore some fascinating information about this famous American who exposed several top-secret government programs for mass surveillance on its own citizens. So, what do you know about this infamous American spy? During his youth, he spent a lot of time in cyber cafes. This experience would later become useful to him when he was working as an NSA contractor. He would later use the computer skills he acquired during this period to access secret information belonging to the United States government. Edward Snowden was born in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and later moved to the state of Washington when he was 6 years old. Snowden had a very ordinary childhood and upbringing. He was never acknowledged as an extraordinary child. At the age of 15, he got his first computer and started using it to explore the internet. He was a huge fan of video games and LISP, a programming language. Edward used these skills to hack into computers and even access secret information from his school's network. So he wasn't exactly an ordinary kid. Snowden's grandfather was a rear admiral in the U.S. Coast Guard. He later went on to become a senior official with the FBI and happened to be inside the Pentagon during the 2001 September 11th attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon building. Edward Snowden's father was a warrant officer with the Coast Guard. Edward's mother worked for the U.S. District Court or the District of Maryland, and Edward's sister works as a lawyer with the Federal Judicial Center in Washington, D.C. In 2004, Snowden enlisted with the U.S. Army and was accepted as a Special Forces candidate. Due to fracturing his tibia, he had to take a discharge, which ended his Army career. Edward wanted to join the fight in Iraq to help liberate the oppressed people of that nation. Snowden's real career took off in 2006 after attending an intelligence agency's job fair. As a computer wizard, he rose through the ranks quickly and trained with the CIA's secret school for technology specialists. He has been living in Russia for a few years now. When the NSA leaks began, people were wondering where Snowden would go and what would he do. He had no diplomatic immunity, so he couldn't technically go anywhere. He was a fugitive from justice and a wanted man. However, his partner Lindsay Mills, who is also American, was based in Russia. This marked a change of location for Snowden. He was also able to travel to Russia with the help of the Kremlin. The Russian state granted him asylum in 2013 after he spent a couple of weeks in Hong Kong. There were rumors that the Russian government had promised to protect him if he agreed to work for them. The Russian government has denied this, however. Even though he lives in Russia, Snowden speaks fluent English and is able to read, write, and understand other languages. He has been able to make friends with people from all over the world. When he and Mills were in Hong Kong, they were often spotted at the Russian restaurant in Central. They became well liked in Hong Kong, and many people still remember them fondly. According to Forbes, Snowden was a normal American kid who studied at Montgomery College in Maryland. He then began working as a security guard at the NSA. After a while, he was able to gain access to classified information. He then decided to leak this information to the public. After examining his past, it seems that Snowden had no precursors in hacking and computer security. He was just an ordinary kid who had an average lifestyle. His best friends described him as a nerdy kid who was shy and an introvert. He and his friends often talked about computers and the internet, but the only thing Edward Snowden really liked was airplanes. When he was in high school, he would often take airplane rides with his friends. He also liked to watch aviation documentaries. Outside of his aforementioned high school computer escapades, Snowden had never shown any high-level interest in computers or hacking. Edward Snowden had no clue that he would one day become a highly publicized whistleblower. He wasn't planning on becoming a famous man, and he didn't expect the world to remember him after he leaked secret information about the NSA's mass surveillance program. When Snowden was a teenager, he decided to move away from his family and live in Hawaii with his girlfriend. Some sources claim he attended 2 different universities, one in California and another in Maryland. It has been reported that Snowden received a master's degree in mathematics in 2006 and in information systems in 2009, though after he attained his GED, the only verifiable post-secondary education is Snowden was working towards a master's degree online from the Anne Arundel Community College University of Liverpool. He did, however, work as a security guard, a bartender, and a cook. He was able to support himself, but he struggled to make a living. However, he wasn't satisfied with any of these jobs. He eventually took work with the CIA, Dell, and then the NSA. XKeyscore, Echelon, and Edward Snowden, whistleblower. The NSA surveillance program called XKeyscore is one of the most dangerous surveillance programs in the world. It is used to collect information from web browsing and online chats, as well as other communications. The technology behind XKeyscore makes it easier for the government to spy on its citizens without them knowing it. Edward Snowden revealed XKeyscore and other top-secret documents in 2013. He released over 50 documents. The files reveal that the U.S. government has been monitoring every keystroke in America's computer networks since at least 2007, collecting data on nearly every person's internet activity with no warrants or court orders or any judicial oversight required by Congress or any federal agencies. The government has reportedly used this program to track people's movements and eavesdrop on their phone calls and emails, including those of journalists and political activists who have been critical of American policies abroad or who have taken part in protests against domestic issues such as the war in Iraq or police violence against minorities such as African Americans, Latinos, Muslims, women, and transgender men and women. In response to Edward Snowden's revelations about these mass surveillance programs, both President Barack Obama and former NSA Director Keith Alexander were forced to admit their awareness of these mass surveillance programs. However, even according to the former NSA Director Alexander, there are numbers of people who don't want to be tracked. That's not a problem. President Obama's administration and its members of Congress have ignored repeated warnings from privacy groups and activist organizations that they are rolling back these vital safeguards against government surveillance, but it is now time for all Americans to take a stand. What was Edward Snowden's motivation for leaking classified information? Snowden is a former CIA and NSA employee who leaked information about the U.S. government's surveillance of its citizens to the media. He was a systems analyst for the U.S. intelligence community. Snowden morally objected to mass government surveillance programs and taking part in illegally monitoring and tracking U.S. citizens without justification or cause. The straw that broke the camel's back was the bold-faced lies of senior and top-level government officials, including the President of the United States, who repeatedly assured Congress and the American public that no such program existed and that such programs violated the Constitution. Snowden argues that he had the moral obligation to make the public aware of just how far the government is willing to go to spy on its citizens. Whether you're a fan of the whistleblower or not, there's no denying that the world has been changed by his actions. After learning about the NSA secret surveillance programs, Snowden decided to share what he had learned with the media. On May 20th, 2013, he officially declared himself the source and revealed himself to be the person who had leaked the NSA's surveillance programs to the media. In August 2013, Snowden fled the United States and flew to Hong Kong, where he stayed for over a month. In the last week of August 2013, the Hong Kong government refused his request for asylum. On August 21, 2013, Snowden flew to Moscow, Russia, where he stayed for over a month until he was granted asylum in Russia on August 31, 2013. On Monday, September 26, 2022, Edward Snowden was granted citizenship in Russia by President Vladimir Putin. Some call him a traitor, and others call him a hero. What do you think about Edward Snowden? Leave your comments below. Subscribe now so that you don't miss out on Edward Snowden and America's most infamous spies.